great, yes. That thing's slow. That thing's slow.
Is that the only reason I can do it?
You really?
Can I smoke? Pass Mac Homer in case it's not.
Yeah, you might hold.
No?
Here he comes. I'll give him a minute to get up here. Just in time, Willie.
I hope your computer works better this time.
Throw it away.
It has a monitor on it.
Like bombarded.
How you doing?
How you doing?
This regular meeting of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen for March 18th, 2014 will come to order. I'll ask everyone to stand for the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. First item on our agenda will be public hearing in regard to ordinance 14-04. This ordinance would rezone a tract of property located at 2502 South Main, owned by Walter Whittenberg, from residential industrial to CS commercial services. This tract is a little less than an acre, 0.81 hundredths of an acre. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to make a statement with regard to this proposed ordinance? Hearing none, that part of the agenda of the hearing is closed. We move now to the approval of the minutes. Item 1.5. This would be the minutes of the meeting of February the 18th. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
In discussion of the minutes. If you favor the approval, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. So ordered. We move now to the legislative portion of the agenda. Item 2.1 is ordinance 14-01. This is third and final reading. This would close the unnamed alley located between White Street in front of the Gorham McBain Public Library, approximately 179 feet, to a second unnamed alley running along the west side of the Gorham McBain Public Library, and conveying that said property to Robertson County and the city of Springfield for the benefit of the library. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Now discussion. Any discussion on this on third reading? Call the roll then, Ms. Connie.
Snyder.
Aye.
Carneal.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Ellis. Ellis.
Aye.
Mason.
Aye.
Passed 7-0.
All righty, we move to 2.2. This concerns ordinance 14-03. It's on second reading. This ordinance amends the fiscal 2014 annual budget for the city by amending certain line item expenditures and revenues within various funds and departments. Is there a motion this be considered?
Move for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Duly seconded. Any discussion?
Yes, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
These amendments right here, do they, I don't think I could pull that up. I couldn't see it on the agenda. Does somebody have a hard copy of it?
No, we don't. See if Ms. Connie does.
Were you able, you couldn't pull yours up either? I don't know what we're voting on.
1403 is up on ours.
You need to look at it.
1403.
This hasn't changed from the first reading.
Okay. Yeah, it's the same stuff.
You ready to go now?
Yes, yeah.
All right. Any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Head,
Yes.
Carneal,
Aye.
Snyder,
Aye.
Mason,
Aye.
Hubbard,
Aye.
Ellis, Sneed.
Aye.
Pass 7-0.
Okay, now 2.3, this is ordinance 1404. This is also a second reading and would rezone this tract of property at 2502 South Main from restricted industrial to CS, commercial services. Is there a motion that this be acted upon?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
At the last planning meeting, we voted to send it on.
Okay. Any comment or discussion? Call the roll, please.
Ellis,
Aye.
Hubbard,
Aye.
Sneed,
Aye.
Snyder,
Aye.
Carneal,
Aye.
Mason,
Aye.
Head,
Yes.
pass 7-0.
All right, 2.4 is to discuss and possibly take action on Resolution 14-03. This would authorize the issuance, sale, and payment of certain capital outlay notes. There are something you don't have a motion on
No, sir.
this. Okay. All right, let's get a motion to get this on the floor, please.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, Paul, do you want to explain this, please?
Well, what I'm handing out to the board really applies to the next three resolutions, this one, the following two. And these are for capital outlay notes. And you have a memo from Jane Murphy addressing the amounts and the estimated interest rates and how much these are, how these are allocated to various funds. And you'll notice that the first resolution is in the amount of
692,
yeah, there you go, 692,870, and that'll be divided between, or among, the general fund will have 36.2% of the note, gas department will have 24.7%, electric department will have 30.10%, and stormwater management will have 9%. It'll be a 4-year note, and just for your information, this will be the maximum we will borrow. We're considering right now that to purchase the piece of equipment under stormwater management with cash, it's about $61,000, but we haven't made that decision. So what you'll approve is an amount that we cannot exceed.
okay?
And then there's the following pages have the second amount will be one item. Will be a 6-year note for sanitation. That's the new one-armed pickup truck, the automated pickup truck. And then the last one is $607,253, and that is divided as follows. You'll have 55.9 water wastewater department, 24.7 for sanitation, and 19.4 for general fund. And I believe the items that they're actually going to be purchased are itemized in the resolutions proper.
All right, but this particular one is a 4-year note, an estimated interest rate of 4%. Payments would begin in the year 2015, and the amount is not to exceed $692,870. Is there any discussion on this matter?
Yes.
Go ahead.
The general fund portion of this, Paul, is the first payment in 2015 is going to be $70,000, or roughly $70,000 on the general portion.
That's correct.
So, I mean, we were scraping by this budget this year. I guess that's going to take a 2-cent property tax increase to pay for this. Is that what you're going to recommend at budget time?
Well, the budget's going to balance out what it balances out to. Yes, you're right. It would take about 2 cents to retire a $70,000 payment in 1 year.
I'm just trying to get it out in the open now, because at budget time, after we spent this stuff and the bills come due, you know, we're not giving you the money. So if you don't want to give the money, raise the taxes, pay for this, you don't need to be spending for it now. Basically, the way I see it.
Well, as everybody remembers, when we did the budget, we do capital outlay notes. We don't pay anything in the first year. We get the money, we pay for the equipment, and the second year we pay it off. So everybody agreed to this payment plan in the budget, the current budget. So everything is in compliance. All the estimated amounts are very close to what we had. I think they're a little under what we estimated.
All right, other discussion?
What does that include? We're going to vote on the 692 first, is that right?
Yes, that's item 1403.
How much of that is general fund?
That is 36.2%.
And so we'll have to pay, we're actually paying on 1/3 of 250, roughly 1/3, which would be
1/3.
70.
Yeah.
Okay, that's where you got your 70. Okay,
Is that all you had, Jerome?
that's all I have right now.
Any other questions or comments? All right, if you favor this motion, vote aye when your name's called. If you oppose, vote no.
Carneal,
Aye.
Head,
No.
Sneed,
No.
Mason,
Aye.
Snyder,
Aye.
Ellis,
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Pass 5-2.
Okay.
And Mayor, I did want to state that the items are listed on 14. At the end of the resolution, you want to know what pieces of equipment were purchased. They're right at the end of each resolution.
Okay. Okay, 1404 is the next ordinance in this series. Excuse me, I skipped down too far. No, that's right. That is right. This would be the 6-year capital outlay note in the amount of $224,494. And this estimated interest rate is 4.5%, and these debt service payments will begin in 2015 as well. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Any discussion then?
Is that, what's that to pay for?
That's to pay for the new sanitation truck, the automated, just the driver truck. We awarded the bid last month.
And when's the estimated delivery date if we pass this? 6 months from time, so it'll get it for the end of the year. First quarter.
Okay, any further discussion on 1404? You ready? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Hubbard,
Aye.
Snyder,
Aye.
Carneal,
Aye.
Sneed,
Aye.
Head,
Yes.
Ellis,
Aye.
Mason.
Aye.
Pass 7-0.
Now 1405. Is there a motion?
So moved, Gil.
Second?
Second.
Okay, this is an 8-year capital outlay note in the amount of $607,253 at an estimated interest rate of 5%, and these payments also will begin in the year 2015. Any discussion on this matter?
What piece of equipment for?
Okay, if you go down to page 14, we've got 3 large items. You have a jet vac truck that was around $339,000. That's for the wastewater department. You've got 2,500 new refuse carts. Those are the new style for the one-armed truck. That's about $124,000. And you've got a dump truck for Public Works, and that's going to have all the controls for winter activity, all the things that are required. That was a little over $117,000. So that makes up the total.
Alan, the new refuse cards, is it about like the one we have now, or a different style?
No, they're tall type.
It's real tall type. Okay.
The old type doesn't work with automated trucks, and they do not make the old style anymore.
Okay.
That's why I replaced them.
Okay. What's the expected delivery on this? Oh, what's the expected delivery on this equipment?
The carts,
Uh-huh.
we already have.
Got all of them now?
We already have 1,500, we're getting 2,500. They've been coming in, they've been changed out.
I noticed you were delivering some today out in
They
the
have to do
Oakland
it by
Farms
the
area.
routes, and they can only do about 200 a day. We got about 2,500 to change out, so it takes a little time. We still have 1,000, not even on the yard yet.
Okay. All right, other questions or comments associated with this? Hearing none, please call the roll on 1405.
Mason.
Aye.
Ellis. Sneed.
Aye.
Carneal.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Head.
No.
Snyder. Pass 6-1.
Okay. And now, Resolution 1406 is our item 2.7 that declares certain property as surplus and authorizes the disposal of such. Is there a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
Paul?
And Mayor, that'll be for the disposal of the old-style carts, the 90-gallon.
We need to go up to it. All right, is there a motion?
So moved.
Got it?
Yeah, we got
Okay,
the
well,
motion.
we're getting
Sorry,
it
no.
twice, okay. Any questions on this?
What can you do with those carts, sir? What can you do with them?
We put them on gov deals, the thing that we, all the surplus materials go in. They've been sold, the last group has been sold as far as Kansas, North Carolina, Gallatin, people buy them. Usually private, it's company. Still using the rear load.
Okay. Any other questions on this matter? Please call the roll.
Snyder.
Aye.
Carneal.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Ellis.
Aye.
Mason.
Aye.
Pass 7-0.
Okay, now we move to the administrative portion of the agenda. The first item is the monthly adjustment of retail electric rates by the electric department due to a wholesale fuel cost adjustment by TVA. Is there a motion this be taken into consideration and possibly acted upon?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Mr. Gardner?
Fuel cost adjustment itself is going up about 2.5%, but because April is a transition month, the base rate goes down, so the net effect is a 1.3% decrease.
Well, that's good. That's better than last month. Okay. We might approve that one then. All right, we have a motion.
Yes, sir.
All right, any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Head.
Yes.
Carneal.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Mason.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Ellis. Sneed.
Aye.
Pass 7-0.
Okay, now similar monthly adjustment of gas rates. Greg, what do you got in the gas department?
I don't want to tell you. The PGA's up about 18.7%, which sounds bad, but across the board is about a 13.7% increase in rates, which is about 12 cents. Sounds bad, but due to the extreme winter that we've had and emptying our storage balance, we had to go out on the market and buy more gas.
Okay.
So hopefully, everything's trending downward as I'm checking the rates daily, and hopefully we'll have a better report next month.
Okay, we hope so too. Need a motion on this, please.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ellis.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Carneal.
Aye.
Mason.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Pass 7-0.
Okay, let me have it. Okay, next is to discuss and possibly take action on the proposed agreement for the repayment of Tennessee liquor tax on mixed drinks between the city and the Board of Education. And I'm going to read this agreement be a little bit boring, but not as long as some others we've had to read. Is there a motion this be considered?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Okay. This agreement entered into on the final date of signature by and between the City of Springfield, a Tennessee municipal governmental entity referred to as Springfield hereafter, and the Robertson County Board of Education, a Tennessee governmental entity referred to in the hereafter as the Board. Whereas Tennessee Code Annotated 57-4-306, referred to herein as the statute, provides for a tax on the sale of liquor by the drink, and further provides that upon collection of such tax by the state of Tennessee, that the state is to retain one half of the tax and is to return the other half to the city where the tax was collected. And whereas the statute further provides that upon receipt, a municipality where the tax was collected shall further share this tax and retain one half of what is received from the state and pay the other half to the Board of Education for that county. And whereas, due to a lack of adequate information and direction from the state of Tennessee with regard to how the liquor by the drink tax revenue is to be distributed, many cities across the state have not been aware until recently informed that they are required to pay one half of their liquor by the drink revenue payments received from the state to the local Board of Education. And many boards of education across the state have not been aware until recently informed that such payments were due from cities. And whereas for many years, due to such lack of adequate information and direction, it appears that cities across the state have received their respective one half from the state and did not make the required payments to the local boards of education, and the local boards of education did not request such payments. The same situation has occurred in Robertson County with respect to such liquor tax revenue received by Springfield. And whereas these parties have made the following agreement with respect to all prior amounts received, those amounts received during the current year of 2013-14 and those future years going forward, wish to execute this document to reflect those agreements. Now, therefore, the parties agree as follows. Number one, the parties acknowledge the amount of $207,553.24 as being owed by Springfield to the board for the years prior to the current fiscal year of 2013-14. Item two, Springfield agrees to pay the board said amount of $207,553.24 in 4 consecutive annual payments of $51,888.31, with the first payment due July 1st of 2014. Item 3, no interest shall accrue on this amount owing. Item 4, the parties acknowledge payment by Springfield in the amount of $18,504.52 for the board's share of Springfield taxes currently received by Springfield from the state for the fiscal year of 2013-14 to this point. Fifth, the parties agree that upon receipt going forward, Springfield will remit to the board by payment to the Robertson County Finance Office all such share of liquor taxes due the board, executed on the day and date opposite the signatures below. Your motion and second would be to agree to this negotiated settlement.
Motion.
Mr. Mayor.
Second?
We've already done.
Got it all. Okay. Yes, Mr. Sneed.
In light of the fact that cities have spent, I've lost count how many tens of thousands of dollars towards ballparks and other issues, football stadium, bleachers. We just got into an issue. I think it's later on the agenda about our animal control facility. Now, I believe that the county's having some issues with their animal control facility or raising funds for it. I'd like to make so I would suggest in the form of a motion that we defer this till next month and ask the county if they would forgive this and let us put that money toward the animal control facility and merge the two facilities for cost savings on the long run for them and us.
Ms. Sneed, that's the type of thing that we would perhaps prefer to do. Mr. Balthrop, you prepared to tell him why we can't do that?
There was a state attorney general's opinion issued about 2 weeks ago, because this is happening all over the state.
That's probably enough information. It's state attorney.
We can't do it.
It's legal.
It has to be done.
Can't do it.
I'll just make it quick.
We can't do it.
They can't charge us any interest on any back payments. We're going to stay current with them in the future, plus pay these back payments in 4 installments. And it's happened everywhere. I think Hendersonville owed $1 million. We owe $200,000, so you get the drift. But we cannot negotiate with them on anything else. It has to be done in a similar fashion. All right, any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Carnell.
Aye.
Head. Sneed.
Yes.
Mason.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Ellis. Hubbard.
Aye.
Passed 7-0.
Okay, 3.4, report on the progress of the sewer rehabilitation. Paul is, Mr. Lemaster is going to do this.
I think Roger is going to do that.
Okay.
I really didn't have much time to do anything as far as electronically, so I'm going to have to kind of distribute this by hand. I've kind of gone back, and the first page is about 2.5 pages of, a little over 2 pages of information. The first page would kind of give you an outline of the order, what it says, what it requires us to do, and what we've kind of gotten started into this. We have our sewer system divided up into 21 separate sub-basins. I mean, we've got 110, 115 miles of sewers, and if you take it in little chunks, you can be more effective in the way you address your sewer rehabilitation. You know, these sub-basins were divided up several years ago. If you recall right, the order became effective September 24, 2012. About the same time, we retained the services of Gresham Smith and Partners because, sir.
One short.
Oh, definitely. Okay, go ahead.
You still need one down there?
We're good.
We're good.
We're good. No, we're good.
Go ahead, Roger.
We retain the services of Gresham Smith and Partners to help us do several things. The order requires us to submit a bunch of different documents to EPA. We have to develop what's called a CMOM, a Capacity Management Operation and Maintenance Program, which gets into how we are required to operate and maintain our system to keep overflows from occurring. This gets into, part of this was getting a new jet vac truck where we can be proactive in keeping blockages from occurring. Right now we're reactive. Whenever a blockage occurs, we get a phone call that sewage is overflowing. We go out with an existing truck that's 17, 18 years old, try to get it unplugged and get the sewer to flowing again. The new jet vac truck is intended to allow us to be proactive. We go to places in the system that is prone to overflows, and we try to keep them clean. The second part of the order basically says stop overflows. Don't let them occur. Now that'll never not happen. You really can't design a sewer system that will not overflow. EPA will allow a city to design up to a certain rainfall event. We have to contain everything under that rainfall event. Everything over that, EPA will tacitly agree that is allowable. However, they always say any overflow is a violation of the Clean Water Act and Tennessee's Clean Water Act also. So they could take enforcement action. They cannot tell us legally that here's what you can design around, but they kind of let us do that. You kind of have to look at the way EPA interprets the law. Anyhow, to look at the best way to rehabilitate our system, when we were interviewing engineering companies, I said, we have 2 what I call priority overflows manholes. Now, I need you to be able to get construction started within a year of the order. So Gresham Smith came on board. We identified one of them at the one at Linda Lane, and there's one at the Old Greenbrier Pike where Wartrace Creek comes under. They were able to get the contract started on Linda Lane by August of 2013, so that was within the 1-year time frame. The one on Wartrace on Old Greenbrier Pike was a couple of months after that. So we do have 2 contracts underway. Now those are the first 2. The one sub-basin is 3BCC, and that's 3B, and then it's in the Carr Creek Basin. There are some maps in here if you want to kind of look back. several pages. The first map tells you phase one. It locates 3BCC. It's down there around Linda Lane, Driftwood, Curtiswood area down there. The second is that little star there designates where the priority manhole is, there in the corner of Linda Lane. The contractor's been working in this sub-basin for several months. He has all of the cured in place lining done, about 31,000 feet. That's done. We've already seen some benefits. We've had several substantial rains, inch and a half, 2 inches, and that manhole is not overflowed. I mean, used to be with 1/10 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch, it would overflow like crazy. They have done a lot of work to keep that extraneous water out. The second priority manhole is in basin, it's kind of where basin 13 and 14 come together. 13 is the basin that has Stonegate and Forest Park Apartment, the Crover area, as well as Legacy Village. So basin 14 is Legacy, Oakland Farms, Saddlebrook, and that sort of stuff. There's a manhole there that overflows a lot. We now have a contract with American Infrastructure Technologies. That contract started about the 27th of January, so they're started working on that. Once we got those identified and we got back up, Gresham Smith and Partners hired 2 contractors. Hydromax is a company they brought in that could televise the sewers, clean the sewers, do smoke testing, and give us an idea of what the actual condition of the sewers are in. They hired CSL to bring in a bunch of flow monitors and put them all over the system so you could kind of isolate where flows were really getting in and getting out, how flows would peak and ebb in response to rainfall events. So they concentrated on basin 3BCC, 13, and 14, and got those done. Then we started looking at where we're going to go next. Phase 2 is basins, if you look at the next map, are basins 3, 4A, 4B, and 5. And that's kind of like in the downtown area. It's out around Central Avenue. It goes 4B, goes all the way over to Tom Austin Highway down north of Sleepy Hollow. So those are the next basin. Any construction will be phase 2. Right now we've got 4A and 4B as phase 1, phase 2A. 3 and 5 would be construction in phase 2B. Now think about 4A and 4B. 4B, down there, if you look about 2/3 of the way down, there's a couple of little stars down there. Those designate what we call constructed overflows. There's also one up there just to the west of Springfield Middle School. We had to put constructed overflows in, and they were done years, long before I got here. But the purpose we did that is, when we get excessive rainwater in there and it starts filling up the sewers, wastewater will go out those constructed overflows instead of coming up in the basement of building, or actually in the floor of buildings. So they're to keep houses and buildings from getting sewage in them. It was the best thing to do at the time, but for some reason or another, the EPA has a mania about constructed overflows. They hate them with a passion. So we decided to do those 2 as well as 3 and 5 in phase 2. Hydromax is almost finished with their investigative work in those basins. Gresham Smith and Partners has already started developing plans and specs. We've got about 30% design done now. So they're into developing plans and specs for those 4 subbasins, phase 2A and 2B. We should be able to get those plans in a biddable condition probably somewhere around September, October, somewhere around there. And maybe by January of next year, get a contract started for that. The next 4 subbasins we looked at are 7, 9, 10, and 11. That's on phase 3. That's kind of the downtown area. It looks at North Memorial Boulevard. It goes down into 16th Avenue around Memorial Boulevard, as well as Industrial Boulevard over in that area. So Hydromax has done most of the work there, but we don't have any timetable yet on plans and specifications. And then the 4th phase is the long sheet at the back that's sub-area 2, which is over around the sewer plant, and it goes over to Alsop Drive where the school is, and then 6, 8, and 12, those are over on the far west, the far east part of the sewage collection system. And right now, those are 15 of the 21 subbasins where we anticipate doing rehabilitation work. Now, when you get down to dollars and cents, that's where you get to the second page. Do you have any questions to this point?
Any questions from any members of the board?
When I start talking about subbasins, I kind of get carried away because I know what I'm talking about, and I just kind of forget that Y'all haven't spent a whole lot of time working out there in the sewers.
Well, if you could tell them the general location in the city where these basins are, that would be
But
good.
that's what the maps do. I mean, I've got them outlined in red and color coded. and
Well,
all
I
that
think the
sort of
public would like to know.
stuff. Okay, all right, well. The priority subbasins, 3BCC is over around Linda Lane and Driftwood, just to the east of the hospital, kind of west of Black Patch, that area in there, north of Curtiswood. That whole area, it's old, it's got a lot of clay pipe that are broken like crazy. Subbasin 13, like I said, is Stonegate, the Kroger area, Forest Park, the Legacy Village, and then 14 is Legacy, Oakland Farms, and Saddlebrook. Phase 2, basins 3, 4A, 4B, and 5. Subbasin 3 goes out Kenny's Road, Kenny School Road, Alsop Drive. 4A is around the Springfield Middle School, goes down around the cemetery in that area through there, up around 3rd Avenue West, McIntosh Drive. 4B is Central Avenue, and then it heads southeast around the Bradford Community Center, 19th Avenue, 20th Avenue, goes all the way over. It includes Walmart. All that goes over, I believe it goes over in that direction. No, it doesn't include Walmart. It's Applebee's, that area in there. And then 5 is up around the 1st Avenue, 3rd Avenue, Cheatham Park School, Walnut Street, North Oak, and that sort of stuff. 7, 9, 10, and 11 are in phase 3. 7, the Civic Center is in there, as well as the county detention facility. 9 gets to the south of that, where you got the police office, 12th Avenue, 11th Avenue, Central Avenue. 10th is just to the southeast of that, 16th Avenue, north in Woodmont, that area. And then 11 is a pretty good sized area. It starts over on it includes 17th Avenue West, Tennessee Department of Transportation, where our 17th Avenue Tower is, and then actually heads all the way up to the north end of Wartress Lake. And then phase 4, subbasin 2 actually starts at the sewer plant and goes over to Westside Elementary School. And then 6, 8, and 12 are Indian Hills, and then the area south of that, and then east over includes Timberlake and that area in through there. So that's kind of a real quick, down and dirty idea of where these subbasins are. Okay, as far as if you want to turn to the second page, the back part of the first page, this is where we actually get down to the financial aspects. Our contract with Gresham Smith and Partners is kind of an open-end contract, because there's no way that you could say a year and a half ago that Gresham Smith would say, we could do the entire project, comply with every part of the order, do all your plans and specs for X amount of dollars. You just cannot do that, because you don't know what our sewer system looks like. So we divided up into task orders, and so far we have 8 task orders that we have gone before the board to get your approval. We still have probably 5 or 6 more to go. Now, all the task orders, all of the work we have to submit to EPA as far as reports and this sort of stuff, those are included in specific task orders. We also have task orders for the plans and specifications for phase 1. We have task orders for the specifications of phase 2, but not the construction part of phase 2. There in the top third of the page, you see the different task orders, what the contract amount is, and then what we've done on payments today. So far, the total contracted amount is $4,964,204 through 8 task orders. Total payments to date, $2,688,996.
Okay, Paul?
Roger, just so that the public knows a little more about the current projects we're in, the very first project that we call the Circle Drive Collection Basin, as you said, that began in August of 2013. The amount is almost $2.4 million. This is the highest priority project. The contractor has 270 days to complete the project, and the final completion date is May 22nd of 2014. Now, in that, so far, they have completed the rehabilitation of 31,000 linear feet using cured-in-place pipe, and they're now in the process of making point repairs to mains and service laterals and repairing service laterals using cured-in-place pipe. The total number of service laterals to be repaired is 390, and cleanouts will be installed on service laterals where necessary, and a total of 120 sewer manholes will be sealed as a part of this contract. So all that work will be done by May 22nd, and correct me, but I think this is basically between Memorial, Central, and Black Patch is a general area where this is covered.
This is 3BCC. This is the one where it's Driftwood, Linda Lane, Golf View, down to Curtis Wood, and up to Memorial Boulevard. It doesn't go over to Central Avenue.
Okay, just a general defined area.
Right.
And then the second one is the one that we just awarded American Infrastructure Technologies. That's about $1.3 million, and this contract's going to take 180 days. The work began January 27th, and final completion date is July of 2014. So as part of this, we're going to be rehabbing 8,810 linear feet of main with cured-in-place pipe, the replacement of 3,800 linear feet of 6-inch main with new 8-inch main, and the sealing of approximately 100 manholes, and the repair of 115 sewer laterals by point repair or cured-in-place pipe.
Yes.
So that gives an idea of what the scope of the projects are. So we're very much on schedule with the two highest priority.
Yes.
As Roger said, Gresham Smith is doing a good job submitting all the reports we need to submit to the EPA. So far, everything's going to schedule.
If you look on the bottom half of the page too, I've got some specific dollar amounts for some specific parts of phases 1A and 1B. Like Paul said, for in situ form, the total contract amount is $2,376,615, and to date we've paid $933,773.34. The contract with American Infrastructure for Phase 1B, $1,298,575, and today we have not made a payment. We've not received a pay request yet, but that should be coming in within another week or two. Okay. And then under each of those, there's various pipe bursting, pipe lining, clean outs with the number, the unit price, and then that would be the total dollar amount for that specific construction item.
Mr. Wright, we have a question.
Mr. Ellis?
Two questions. How did we get in this position? And I know you haven't been here that long. Is it because the board sat here and did nothing for 50 years?
It's because no one brought to your attention the fact that our sewer system was getting worse. Before I got here, the city was not diligent in reporting overflows to the state. The state only knows on these sorts of situations, and EPA, what they're told. When I got here, I found out that we had not been telling the state, this place overflowed, this place overflowed. Well, whenever we report an overflow to the state, they put that starts like their numbering system, and they put that information in EPA's database. And the EPA's database is programmed where if a certain number of overflows occurred on a certain frequency, like every 3 out of 8, 9 months or 6 months out of a year, something like that, then the computer just kind of raises a red flag and says, EPA, we got a problem here. You better ask the state what they're doing about it. Well, that hadn't been done until I got here. And when I got here, we started reporting overflow. Now, we didn't report all of them because I forgot about the little basement backups where they come out in people's house. I was not reporting those, but we are doing that now. So EPA and state, what they saw for years and years and years and years and years, no overflows or very few overflows. That means a tight system. Now all of a sudden, since 2004, we start showing, well, over the last, I guess for a 2.5, 3 year, 5 year time period, we had 380 overflows. So it looks like to them our system went down in a hurry. In effect, it had been getting worse and worse and worse over years and years and years and years.
You've answered that one. And I'd like to add a question, sir.
I'll make 3. But we'll
make 3. Is that what does the consent order say from the federal government? And I'm not asking you to quote it, but does it say that there can be no additional people on the sewer? build a house in this area, what does it say?
The word moratorium does not show up anywhere in the administrative order. Nowhere does that show up. What one part of the order says is, and I'm amazed they gave me 2 years, it says by September 24, 2014, I have to certify 3 things. One, I have to certify that the wastewater treatment plant can handle all flows that get to it, which I can kind of do that now because we get to 9 million gallons and we start overflowing back in the system. So I mean, it'll handle everything that gets to it. So that's kind of a cheating way, but I think I can do that. The second thing I have to certify is that all of the sewer pump stations can handle all of the existing flow plus projected new flows without overflowing. And I can do that because we don't have any problem with our sewer pump stations. The third thing I have to certify, and this is the real issue, is that all of the gravity sewers can adequately transmit the existing flows, which they can't, plus new flows, which they won't be able to. So and I'm going to get the Gresham Smith to look at this pretty closely and see if they agree with me. By September 24, if we don't have our system fixed, we're not going to be able to add new flows. That's what I'm thinking.
Not going to be able to do what?
Add new flows to our system,
So that,
other than those we've already promised.
yeah.
That's the way I look at that specific part of the administrative order. I got to be able to certify that our gravity system can handle all existing flows and new flows.
What you're saying is they didn't tell you couldn't add, but they said by, September
of this year, after 2 years.
This year, you better have it so that doesn't cause any problems overflowing.
That's
Is that
correct.
right?
That's correct. Any new flows cannot make the system worse.
And that's the capacity plan that we have to have.
Well, that's part of it, yes. But I have to certify what they can and can't do.
The fact, Roger, that you, excuse me, Jerome, you have another one though.
Go ahead, I do, but I wait.
The fact that we have taken down how many buildings in this city, Paul?
Well, over 500, but about
I know, but that goes back
176 in the last 4 years.
176 in the last 4 years. That would have some bearing, obviously, on capacity, does it not?
Well, that will allow us to add new customers now, but I still have to look at the way that thing is worded for September 24 of this year. And I'll get with the EPA and see, what exactly does this mean? What do I have to certify when I do this? What does it mean I can't do?
Well, we're in the middle of upgrading and repairing a very old system.
Yes.
When we're making a good faith effort, I mean, we're going full speed ahead on this and have since this was all brought to our attention. The engineers got on board. We asked the engineers, how does this compare with other? Gresham Smith works with numerous cities on this. How do we compare? Because we didn't know, how this stands with other cities, and they said you're typical.
Right.
You're very typical if you're an older city. Now, with this having been said, surely there's some room there. I mean, the thing that, of course, we've gone through a recession, which stopped a lot of building. We know that. But now that is not totally over, but muchly improved, these builders and real estate people and others want to see something as definite as they can for planning, and we want the same thing. Now, I'm sure you're going to do everything that we can, and we're not going to have any delays as we move this thing through, because we've approved without any problem everything that's been brought before us.
Right.
And I think you've made excellent progress, and you had your priorities straight once you got started on it. Because the phase 1 area with Circle Drive and the phase 2 with the old Greenbrier Pike affects some pretty large areas, and particularly the old Greenbrier Pike one, where you've got some development that has been planned or is moving forward, and so it's pretty critical. But I hope you'll get this determined as soon as, I'd like to know as soon as possible how they do, what their reaction is to this type of thing.
I can bring you an answer in the next business meeting.
I'd like to do that.
Okay.
And can you do these, I know Mr. Ellis had asked for this update, I'd asked for it as well, and I think we at least need to have at least a quarterly update on this for the public, and particularly in these meetings, because they're telecast 3 times a day, 4 days a week, and people really do watch these. Some of the other channels get a little boring, but this one sometimes gets interesting. So, all right, hey, Ann, I think you had something as well?
Yes, sir. I want to make sure I understand correctly. Phase 1, all of that will be finished by July 14th? Or by the September deadline that you have to fill out your paperwork? Okay, so at that point, will we be able to give permits for undeveloped land in that legacy area where we're having the growth? The property that was sold at auction, I believe it was, what, 11 acres? Will we be-
There were 2 pieces of auction, one on the Oakland Farm and the other on the back behind Saddlebrook or Oakland Farm, back in that area. Again, I'm going to have to see what EPA exactly means by that certification that I have to give to them regarding the collection system. Remember, the subbasins 13 and 14, the Oakland Farm, Legacy, Stonegate, all that is the very upper end of our Sulphur Fork Creek interceptor. And we got some bad places further on down all the way till you get to the sewer plant. So just because we fixed the upper end, there are still some areas down that need to be fixed. So I can't give you assurances, because if I have to certify that the gravity system can handle all existing flows plus new flows, I may have trouble doing that. I may have trouble adding that new flow in there. This is what I'm going to bring to y'all next business meeting on exactly what the EPA means.
Okay, so when you send your task orders to EPA,
I don't send task orders to EPA.
you don't have to send those?
No,
So you don't have to get approval on
between
those?
us and Gresham Smith.
Okay.
Okay.
EPA didn't tell us how to do it. They said, here's what you have to do. They didn't say how to do it.
And then you're doing quarterly reports like you showed us
Correct.
before?
Correct.
All right, I think we're probably going to ask the same question. If you think this is a potential, because you're going to try to secure this answer before the next meeting.
Yes, sir.
But that being the case, it would appear that if you get an answer that's not what we need to hear, that we need to try to target what's on down on that interceptor, the Sulphur Fork interceptor, between the area that we're now talking about on the old Greenbrier Pike, and connecting it all the way to Sulphur Fork and then down Sulphur Fork to the treatment plant, that we would need to move on that type of thing with the same urgency that we've done phase 1 and 2, would we not?
Phase 1A and B is what we're working on now. Phase 2 would be subbasin 3, 4A, 4B, and 5. Those will have those constructed overflows. EPA will want us to hit those first.
Okay.
Because I hate overflows construct overflows with a passion. After that, then we're moving over along the Sulphur Fork Creek interceptor, phase 3.
To the area that you're concerned about.
Well, part of it, because it goes all the way, the whole area, yes. But we are doing that next.
All right, well, we'll anxiously await your answer at next month's meeting. Now, are there other questions, James?
Yes. You know, not trying to be redundant, but for the ones that's already been approved, you know, it appears that, you know, we're finally giving some clarity. And so we don't have any misunderstandings with those who are already approved, okay, and those who want to do future development, okay? I'm glad we're having this discussion, and I'm glad that some of the guys who are in the development business are here, so that we can see that we're not trying to hold them hostage or delay them, okay? But I think you really explained it thoroughly. So we all should be on the same page today and sort of put down a little of this, and I'm going to go on and say a little animosity, you know, of not having a clear reading. So I thank you for that, okay?
We are.
Mr. Ellis has asked for the next statement, so you're on. But then I'll get to you.
September, if we have not met what the federal government said, what can they do?
Well, now, the administrative order, let me back up a little bit. I knew this was coming, and we were either faced with an administrative order of consent, which is work that can be done within 5 years, or a consent order from the Department of Justice for anything that takes more than 5 years. But in discussions with David Brewer and Terry Beers and I, we decided if we do this aggressively, we can do it in 5 years. That's why we were able to convince the EPA of that. So we got an administrative order. We have to have our system rehabilitated before the order ends in 2017. But before we do that, by 2014 is when I have to make this certification. We're not going to have all the work done by this coming September. We're going to have to give that certification. We still have a lot of work to do after that.
So what can they do? I mean, what is their action if they can't certify what we've done?
Well, if I certify the EPA that our gravity sewers will handle all existing flow like they do now and new flow, and we let new flow come in, and I report to them that we've had more and more and more overflows, then they're going to say, you lied through your teeth. We're going to take enforcement action against you. And I don't want that to happen.
Paul?
Yeah. I've read this administrative order forwards and backwards, and we've met with the state on this. First of all, with regard to the houses being taken down, I mean, that's nice. That's a little tentative thing we had while we weren't making the repairs. Now we're making the repairs, and we're recovering capacity. And we have to have a model in there. That's part of the activity. And that model will help us demonstrate where we have capacity to deliver things. And if it's not good on one spot, you get credit for repairs on other locations. It says that in the administrative order, as I read it. So the fact is, we need to stay on schedule. We need to be aggressive. The state said anything that we've already approved, as long as it's a single-family home, or as we've done on other areas of the system that were good but are still going to the same wastewater treatment plant, the state is allowing and we're allowing people to build. The issue is now, can we get enough repaired and get enough capacity back so we can get the credit to put homes in areas that haven't been developed yet? And that's the issue. But that order addresses that. And there are certain credits that you get for the work that you do. So the important thing, the number of houses we took down was really meaningless until we got the work started. And now that we're getting the work started, we're gaining capacity, and that's the issue.
You can see lot after
Yes.
lot after
Yeah.
lot. If you go in the Newtown area and several others where, I mean, half of those are gone. That's just one example. Okay, are there other questions?
I just would want to make one more point too, and Roger was not here, but the city had a pretty extensive I&I project done very early on in the mid to late 90s because we had serious overflows in the Bransford area. I mean, just about every time it rained. I mean, people had sewer on their lawns, and I think Mr. Head remembers that, and I think Mr. Mason remembers that, and Mr. Hubbard remembers that, because we were all dealing with that. And you yourself have come in and done some other things like the Sherwood Forest intercepted, redirecting that so that we can get some sewer channeled in the correct way.
Sleepy Hollow Pump Station.
Sleepy Hollow Pump,
Hillside
I'm sorry.
Drive overflows by Hillside Drive.
And Hillside Drive. So, you know, we have been doing some projects, and the fact is, when you have something that is so extensive on an old sewer system, you know, where do you start? And you know, how far do you have to go? And the thing about EPA orders on consent is they're asking you to survey your entire system, so you can actually make a very good evaluation of your system, and you can put the money where it's going to be most effective, because you don't have to repair every hole in your system. This isn't an issue that the sewer system isn't, as far as, you know, we don't have enough capacity in the plant or whatever, but the fact is it deals with overflows and rain conditions that the EPA no longer allows. And we, as a number of other cities, are going to have to do, and we're going to have to correct this problem.
One thing to bear in mind, let me make one statement here. We are hiring companies right now to work on the collectors themselves by doing cured in place, by working on the service laterals and all that sort of stuff. That itself is not going to be enough to keep us from having overflows. Typically, a total rehabilitation package involves three different aspects. One is rehabilitation in sewers, like we're doing now. The other is upsizing sewers to where they can handle more. And the third is to have storage basins somewhere in the system where excess sewage will go into the storage basin where it's held. And then whenever the wastewater goes downstream, you pump that back into the
Kind of
sewer
like a
system.
detention pond.
A detention
I
pond.
know
We will have
somebody
to
will
probably
wanna
have elements
those
of
in
all
there.
three, yes. We just don't know where those storage basins are gonna be.
Okay, now, Clay, did you have something?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
The presentation that Gresselman Smith presented to us, I think it was back in November, December, the PowerPoint presentation. I remember their estimated utility bill for sewer and water with all of the things that they thought we were going to have to do, and this was not disputed. I remember that figure. It's going to be somewhere around $120 a month based on your figures of debt service, payback, and so forth. Do you remember the volume of money, how many millions? We're talking about the Springfield, the sewer plant, everything that we're going to have to do to get out of this and rehabilitate the system. Wasn't it somewhere in the figures about $100 million just for the sewer system?
Let's see.
It was up in that range.
It was not the construction cost, the total present worth. I think the construction cost was around 40-some million, and then the cost to operate and maintain made up the rest of it. I think that's around somewhere there.
But the bottom line, at the end of this, I think it's a 14-year project. It's a 50-year note, 14 years of doing all this, get it all completed. The utility bills were expected to be in 14 years to $120. So I'm looking at the...
In 14 years, was that, okay.
Well, based 14 years ago where it is today, and 14 years from now, that's going to be pretty high. It's a lot to pay back. I'm looking at the, on phase 1A, right here on page 2. These repairs that were discovered and recommended by Gresham and Smith, I'm seeing about 390 of the lateral lines. And the lateral lines, for clarity, that's the piece of pipe that goes from the main sewer at the street, comes up about 5 or 6 feet toward the house. You're just dealing about 5 or 6, 7, 8 feet of pipe. Is that right?
It kind of depends. If your sewer line is right in the middle of the street, assume, say, a 40-foot right-of-way, then it'd be 20 feet one way, 20 feet the other.
I see.
But if your sewer's off to one side, it could be 35 feet one way and then 5 feet the other.
Right.
I'm assuming an average about 20 feet.
Okay, 20 feet, because it came out to $1,300 each. And I'm trying to, Birmingham, Alabama, they got into a bankruptcy deal because their sewer system around their town just kept getting into overruns. And so I'm watching the dollar amounts to see how we're spending our money. When it came up $1,300 for each lateral, I want to clarify what we're talking about, because digging out 5 feet of pipe costs $1,300.
Right.
That's kind of raising red flags there.
Sure.
All right, Bruce, did you have anything?
I got two questions. One's for my information. Again, tell me what happens in September if you can't certify.
I don't know.
You don't know.
That's what I'm going to get to y'all next month.
Okay. If we're going to spend this money anyway, down the road, over the next 3 years, on these other basins, and we need that to, for you to certify, why don't we speed up that process?
One part involves gathering the data. Hydromax is about 98%, 95% done with basins 7, 9, 10, and 11, and they've just started on the fourth phase, 2, 6, 8, and 12. The engineers, of course, I guess you have to throw more and more engineers at it, but it's easier to do it block by block, or 4 block by 4 block by 4 blocks, so that we can have things run consecutively and smoothly. It just flows a lot easier by having it done piecemeal as opposed to try to get everything done all at once.
I understand that, but it also seems to be a fire that needs to be.
Well, I was really surprised the EPA gave us 2 years to get that certification in. I'd have thought they'd want a lot quicker than that.
I think you're on the same, that's what I was asking, and Ann was as well. I think that's the key thing. You get that answer to us next month, and then we may want to see if we can't step this up further. Now, keep in mind that one of the main objections to taking drastic action is sewer is the most expensive infrastructure that the city provides. And it doesn't come, as people think, out of property tax. It comes strictly by law from the ratepayers. And you either get that money one of two ways, either from the ratepayers or from the developer, or both. I mean, if it's taking new infrastructure, there's several ways you go at it. Tap fees or combination of tap fees and rates. So you've got to consider that as well. And we're going to be taking up another topic right now after this discussion, which is going to take even more money, but we're staying ahead of the curve to a great degree with this next one. So is anything else pertaining to the sewer now?
May I make a motion?
That, yes, sir.
And I don't think we have anything on the floor.
We do not. This is a report.
That Mr. Lee Master give a report every month to us in the progress of the sewer and what he thinks he'll see in September.
Well, I think that could be done, period.
Okay.
Can that, all right, let's just do that. There's no point. It's not, we'd have to add it to the agenda if it comes that way. So let's just, everybody in agreement on that? All right.
A monthly report?
A monthly report. Now, item 3.5, discuss and possibly take action on the meeting held by city officials with representatives of the Logan Todd Regional Water Commission to discuss available options in securing a long-term secondary source of water. Roger, you going to give that report?
I can do that too.
Okay.
If you recall, right, we had a contract with Jacob to do long-term planning. I wanted them to look 25 years into the future and 50 years into the future. Of course, the further out you get, the less precise you are. But I still wanted something, kind of a goal to look at. They looked at a whole bunch of different options as far as us getting a second source of water. And I kind of have a synopsis of what their results came up with. They came up with two alternatives with a present worth analysis that were pretty close together. Present worth involves two figures. One is the capital cost, what it takes to actually put the thing in the ground today, and then the operation and maintenance cost for the next 50 years. You can use a multiplier to bring that back to present day dollars. You add those together, and that's the present worth. Buying raw water from Logan Todd, taking that raw water over to our water plant, expanding our plant, having another line coming into town, had a present worth value of $109 million. About the same amount of dollars could be paid to get finished water from Metro. We would have to upgrade part of their distribution system, bring it up to that water tank in Jolton, then bring a line and a pump station all the way up to our tank out at Tom Austin Highway. That also had a life cycle cost that had $110 million. Now, one of the options they looked at was getting finished water from Logan Todd. That involved a certain capital cost. Now, Logan Todd would pay some of it, but they had, Jacobs estimated that our capital cost would be $29 million to actually spend money and then buy money from them on a day-to-day basis, basically forever. That had a present worth cost of $125 million, so it was substantially more than the other two. A month and a half ago, Paul and I met with Chamber of Commerce folks, and Logan Todd came up with another idea. They said, how about if we bring water from Guthrie down to Adams over to our 5 million tank at Mount Denson and maybe have a spur go down Maxey Road to the interchange down there. And they ran a bunch of different options. One option was Adams buying 300,000, us buying 2 million a day, and the entities down to Maxey Road buying a million gallons a day. And they looked at some funding options of that. Then they said, well, how about if we look at Adams buying 300,000, Springfield buying 2 million, and several different funding options there. And then they looked at only Springfield buying 2 million gallons a day. Under all of these options, Logan Todd would pay 100% of the construction cost. So the capital cost now becomes zero. So I asked Jacob, I sent this information to Jacob, I said, would you use the same cost-effective analysis that you do on this one that you did on the one several years ago? So their option number 5, which was Logan Todd for $125 million, now comes up to $102 million, which is, it kind of separates itself into number 1. So that's what we met with and talked with folks at Logan Todd last week, I guess it was, and just kind of got some, this is not an engineered project. This was their engineer looking at a piece of paper saying, here's Guthrie, here's Adams, here's Springfield, here's Maxey Road. It'll take, say, a 24-inch line going from Guthrie to Adams, a 20-inch line from Adams to Springfield, a 6-inch line from Adams down to here. Well, what Jacobs looked at was the worst-case scenario, and that was us only buying water. If Adams buy water, then our dollar per gallon goes down. If Adams and these down in Maxey Road buy water, then our dollars per gallon goes down even more. So they looked at the worst-case scenario, which is us buying water only, and that was where they came up with $102 million present worth cost. So that is now the number one. Now we have, Paul and I and David and Terry have a meeting next Monday at noon in Guthrie with their engineers, also the rural development folks from Kentucky and the rural development folks from Tennessee to look at funding and all that sort of stuff. Friday of next week, their engineer is coming to Springfield, meeting with David and Terry and me, and we're going to start looking a little bit more in detail about where we want the water to go and this sort of stuff. So right now, that's looking like our best option.
Well, that's great news. I want to, Paul.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I just want to make sure that for everybody's understanding, in summation, this is what we're looking at, and Roger, correct me, but they're going to need for us to take 2 million gallons a day
Yes.
to have a feasible project. Now, the line is going to be a 20-mile line of treated water, and the diameter of the line can be anywhere from 20 to 24 inches. So the line will be designed so that we can take the minimum 2 million, which will mean we will take 1/3 of our water from them, because a little less than that's a little more than a third of
About
what
40%.
we produce, about 4.5 a day. So we'll take 2 million from them. We have to take every day, guarantee every day, and then we'll produce less at our water treatment plant. So that'll give us another source of water. The plan is that they are going to pay for the capital costs, but we're going to pay it in the price of the water. So they generally do 40-year bonds, and we have done some 40-year bonds. We're still paying on 40-year bonds from the old days. Some of probably the first water treatment plant we've had, probably down on Sulphur Fork Creek, was 40-year bonds. They will charge us in the price of water, the wholesale price of water, the debt service to pay for that capital improvement.
Well, we're not the only ones paying it. Logan Todd is a wholesaler. They have 13 or 14 other customers. They sell water wholesale. We get the water at the same exact price that we will get it. They're paying more now. When we start buying 2 million a day, we will be their number one user. And their prices are going to go from where it is now down to what we will pay, they pay, and they pay.
Well, I want to make it clear to the board that we're not going to have to go out and build anything. We're not going to have to put anything on our bonds. It is going to be paid in the price of water, and everybody will share that. And if we will have a seat on the board of the Logan Todd Regional Water Commission if we follow through with this. So, as Roger said, we're trying to get some information. The engineers are going to get together, see how the system works. The rural development people, that will be the rural development bonds. So Kentucky and Tennessee, the people are going to have to get together and get an agreement on this. But it was explained to us on the meeting with Logan Todd that the federal government is very interested in regionalization, and this will be, as we've done with TAC, done regional for natural gas, we'll be doing a regional between states project, and they're very excited about that. So they are very interested in having us as a customer.
Okay, that sounds very good. As we knew, we were going to have to go to the Cumberland River in some way, and we've considered a number of options. We considered a relationship with the White House Utility District. We considered Nashville, Metro Water. We have considered going to the Cumberland ourselves with a separate treatment plant, and we've considered this option with Logan Todd. more than a year or more ago, I guess Paul and I and Roger went to Guthrie and toured that plant. Very impressed with the plant and very impressed with the people who operate it and the board members as well. There's been very little growth in Todd and Logan counties since that water system was developed, and this is they want us as a customer, and this will help them with their indebtedness, and they'll be able to refinance the current debt that they have, even though and take on this additional debt. And I think it's a win-win for everybody concerned. Treatment plants are expensive, and when we had the scare last month where the treatment failed on us for a few hours, it brought to bear something that I knew we had to do. We didn't need to depend solely on that treatment plant. And this way, they would sell us raw water, but we don't need that so much as we need an alternate source. If we had an emergency and after we get this set up and rolling, assuming we approve it, and again, rates will go up. There's no question about that. But this is the price of progress, and infrastructure is is a big part of it. And if we don't invest in the infrastructure, we're not going to be in a position to grow. So with this, I think we've got the best possible situation. And it's not where you can just hook on and not take water unless you needed it. The water has to be flowing through that pipe at all times to keep it sanitary and that type of thing. And I feel a little bit better dealing with a neighbor who needs a customer than to try to deal with Metro, who has 2 water plants, but probably, and I'm sure they would work with us, but I really believe this is the best option we could come forward with. So what type of action, Paul, do we need tonight on this?
On the water, just
Approve moving forward?
That'll be fine.
Negotiations?
That'll be fine.
All right, is there a motion then that we continue to move forward with our
Mr. Ellis
discussion?
made a motion, I second.
Okay. Into discussion now. Please call the roll.
Snyder.
Aye.
Carneal.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Ellis.
Aye.
Mason.
Aye.
Passed 7-0.
Thank you very much. Now, 3.6 is also in that field, discuss and possibly take action on authorizing an agreement with the Garver engineering firm to review the long-term planning alternative for the wastewater treatment plant. Roger, you back on?
Yeah, I'm gonna do that one too.
Okay, might as well.
Jacobs, when they did long-term planning, I asked them to look at water and look at wastewater, because you can't really look at one without looking at the other. So they looked at long-term planning for wastewater, and really, the way that the state of Tennessee, the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation, has their rules called anti-degradation. This means that any new flow or additional flow going to a river cannot degrade the stream more than what it already is. So as a part of anti-degradation, they're saying any alternative has to include, you got to look at land application. It may or may not be the most cost effective, but you got to look at land application. So Jacobs looked at land application as one alternative, in addition to expanding the plant at Sulphur Fork Creek and having a discharge to the Cumberland River and various alternatives like that. The land application alternative made one really big assumption. The assumption was that within a 5-mile radius of the sewer plant, we could find 800 acres. They assumed that we could continue discharging 3.4 million gallons a day at Sulphur Fork Creek with some modifications to the plant. But the rest of the raw water would go to a lagoon somewhere and would be treated there, and then we could land apply the treated effluent. Now this is technology that is not new. We got it all over Tennessee. It's real basic stuff. The cost-effective analysis showed that was within 10% of the next most cost-effective, which was some sort of combination of discharge to a stream. So TDEC says if it's within 10%, you got to go with the land application. Well, there's several problems with that. One is that 800 acres within a 5-mile radius of the plant could be scattered up all over. It's not like we're going to find 800 acres just sitting out here waiting for us to come get it. It'd be great if we could. It's going to be, it could be problematic finding 800 acres. But then the second thing that kind of really started getting our attention within the last year and month and 2.5 months is the propensity for sinkholes to start opening up in here. You know, we had one open up at our water plant, drained one of our basins. A couple of months or a month or so ago, we had that Coopertown thing where a sinkhole opened up under their sewage lagoon and drained the lagoon. Then we had the sinkhole up there at Bowling Green that swallowed 8 Corvettes, and everybody's crying and moaning about that. It's kind of getting me concerned about the stability of the soil. Robertson County is just eating up with sinkholes. I've got one behind my house. It seems like it's getting bigger every year. So Garver, Andrew Lynn with Garver, came to me, I guess, 3 or 4 months ago with a proposal to reevaluate some of these alternatives for a direct discharge as opposed to going with land application. And their alternative looks, it says, well, we're going to run a computer program, model it against what we got coming in and what we could go into the stream. We're also going to take a look at that 10% thing. You know, even though it's 10%, within 10% of the most cost effective, the uncertainty factor of having sinkholes open up anywhere really creates, I think, more problems than the thing solves. So I'd really like from another company to look at this. You know, if we can save a bunch of money and get a more reliable system, I'd rather do it now than 20 years down the road and have a sink taking up our sinkhole. A sinkhole take up our lagoon or our land application system. And they're asking for $15,900, I think it is.
15,800.
How much?
15,800.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I motion to grant him that $15,800.
Second? Second?
Second.
Okay. Now discussion.
I made the motion simply because of my concern, you know, of all these sinkholes and different caves, got a lot of caves and stuff, so that's a concern of mine also.
All right, any further questions?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I read the contract in here, and I would suggest the maker of the motion look at it and review his decision about spending this money, because my interpretation of the contract, if the city attorney hadn't looked at, $15,000 is only to come up with the suggestions. If we use or act on these suggestions, they own the rights to what their findings. My interpretation of the contract, we're going to have to pay them more than $15,000 if we use what they suggest.
The scope of the contract is Appendix A only. And Appendix A is where they describe the work, where they're going to look at the sewer system, look at the alternatives, and compare that to what they did in Jacob's contract. This does not give them anything beyond that. They do not have any design contracts or any design thing like it. Once we get this, if we decide to go forward, then we will go out with an RFP, RFQ, or we could choose them, or we could choose Jacobs to do the design work. This does not get them anywhere.
The maker
That doesn't
made
get
the
them
motion.
work, but they own what they own their findings, and they'll have my interpretation of the contract was that would lead to, if we use that, we're going to have to pay them more. It's not something we can take and give someone else and take this and give Gresham and Smith without paying them more.
This would be the same thing as we did with long-term planning. Jacobs gave us a bunch of alternatives. They gave us the most cost-effective. Anybody can take that and then start design on their own.
Well, I mean, that's a different contract. I'm reading this contract, and I've grown up in this area my whole life. There's sinkholes everywhere. And you're talking about 800 acres. If a sinkhole opens up on the lower 40, that's not going to shut the operation down while we rectify that situation. I just think it's just throwing money away. We know there's sinkholes here. It's our only option, and we can't afford to get them to juggle the numbers to come up with a reason we can tell the EPA it's not within that 10%. And what's our other option? If he does find a way it exceeds that 10% that mandates us use land application, what's our option? We're going to have to go to the Cumberland River because we can't dump any more in Sulphur Fork.
All right, Mr. Steve, let me check with our attorney. Jim, have you read this contract?
I did read it. I didn't pick up on that, but sitting here, I do see that Garver retains ownership of the printed hard copy drawings and specifications in the electronic media. The owner is granted a license for their use, but only in the operation and maintenance of the project or assignment for which they were provided. use these materials for modification of any other project unless under the direction of Garver shall be without liability to Garver and Garver's consultants. But for this project, we have a license to use.
Okay. You feel
use
good
those.
about this
Yeah,
contract?
I do for this project. I don't think we
Okay.
can use it for another project without.
All right, you've heard the
talking to
attorney.
them.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Hubbard?
Quick statement, the maker of the motion know this is relevant, and so I stand with my motion.
Okay. Anything further, Paul?
Yeah, it only makes sense to try to expand the plant. If you can make the case to keep the existing plant, that is clearly the best thing to do. To go out and try to buy 800 acres, especially in a questionable, with a questionable geology, is something we really need to get a firm answer from the state. And if they recognize this as a hardship, and we can do this through our immediate expansion of our plant and maybe upgrading the plant as far as the treatment required, that seems to be the most cost-effective means of handling this long-term.
All right. Any further questions before we vote? Call the roll.
Head,
Yes.
Carnell,
Aye.
Snyder,
Aye.
Mason,
Aye.
Hubbard,
Aye.
Ellis, Sneed,
No.
passed 6-1.
Okay, now to discuss and possibly take action on the acquisition of property for the purpose of industrial development, item 3.7. Paul?
Thank you, Mayor. We've been just recently advised that there is some property for sale adjacent to the North Industrial Park, and I've provided you the basic summary of the land, almost 110 acres, 109.41 acres. I believe that this is the land where Tall Oak subdivision was originally going to go, and you can see that there is a proposed asking price. Of course, anything, if we consider purchasing this land at some point, if the board is interested in pursuing that, we will have to have the property appraised and determine whether that's a fair price or not. Understand too that with the Tall Oaks issue that there's some wet soils out there that we, of course, before we buy anything, we'd probably have an engineer out there to check everything out and see how much of the property is usable. But we do have a map that I will put in everybody's box. I forgot to bring it downstairs as well as this summary. And if it's something that the board is interested in, of course, we would have to borrow money to purchase the land. We don't have enough money in the fund right now.
One thought on that, on this project, we definitely need some additional industrial property. Of course, the infrastructure is in place in that facility, and of course will be added to if this water project moves forward. However, we're still paying off the debt for that. We don't lack much.
We make one payment this year and one final payment
All
next
right.
year.
But I think the county ought to be participating in this as well. The county industrial board is the one that receives quite a bit of money from the hotel motel tax for economic development. Currently, they're channeling a lot of that through the Chamber of Commerce and in other ways, and I'm not questioning that use. I'm just simply saying that they weren't able to finish their obligation to us on the North Industrial Park because they said they were running short of money. And I think before we take on something like this, we need to involve them in it and involve our city industrial board as well. So we're trying to do things jointly, so let's see how that goes. I wouldn't favor moving on this at this time, but we need to look into it.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I make a motion that we defer 3.7 at a later date. Let Paul investigate this a little further.
Is there a second?
Second.
In discussion? Call the roll.
Ellis, Hubbard,
Aye.
Sneed,
Aye.
Snyder,
Aye.
Carnell,
Aye.
Mason,
Aye.
Head,
Yes.
passed 7-0.
All right. The next item is to discuss and possibly take action on establishing a fee schedule for Robertson County High School golf teams at the Legacy. I think the Legacy staff is going to be talking to some of the coaches, and to this point, Springfield is the only one they've been able to talk to. Is that right?
They still they're retaining the same coach for next year. I think the other schools are in the process of naming their coaches.
Okay. But if we're going to involve the other schools as well, don't we need to wait till the coaches have been talked to?
Yeah,
a little bit and see kind of what their needs are and so forth?
Yes, sir. I've asked Josh to have a meeting, a joint meeting with all the coaches to find out what parameters we want to work within so that we can come back and give you a firm answer.
Well, let's just wait until you give us a firm recommendation before we act on this then. Okay, unless there's an objection. It's not even on the floor at this point, but let's just let it, unless there's an objection, let's just put it off till you can come back here in a couple of months with that. Now, we move to 3.9. Discuss and possibly take action on temporarily borrowing the money for the $1 million that we're planning to give for the library expansion. And Paul, you want to speak to it, and then we'll get a motion.
Thank you, Mayor. The original plan was to have a short-term note that would be refunded when we issue the next bonds for the sewer rehab. We thought, well, you know what, you're going to have cost of issuance and other, have interest you'll have to pay, probably larger than an interest that we would owe to ourselves. So that next bond issue will be issued in a fairly short term, probably before the end of this year, and probably sooner toward the middle of the year than toward the end. But so we thought the best thing in the short term was to borrow the money from ourselves. In talking to our financial advisor, there are still state controller regulations. We would have to have an agreement. We would have to have a resolution. We would have to have an interest rate that we paid the gas department. But when we sold the bonds, we would reimburse them anything we had spent up to that point through the bonds. And I think that's a better, more workable solution.
You make it, that's what you recommend then?
Yes, sir.
All right. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Why are we not taking the $1 million from the general fund instead of the gas department's fund?
Well, it's cash flow. We don't have the fund reserves to do that.
Yes, I know that. I want to hear you say it.
Okay, well, you heard me say it.
All right, anything further? Call the roll.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Carneal.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Ellis. Mason. That's 7-0.
On the next page, the consent docket, is there a motion?
A motion to accept the total docket.
Second?
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mason. Ellis. Sneed.
Aye.
Carneal.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Snyder.
Aye.
That's 7-0.
Okay, city manager report.
Thank you, Mayor. It's fairly brief. I will cover two things, and then I want Chief Thompson to talk about an outing with the Bransford children today. Two things. First of all, the roof on the middle building at the Bransford Community Center is in serious need of repair. The roof has been repaired so many times that it is now beyond repair and will have to be replaced. And we're trying to get estimates, of course, that'll cost approximately $100,000. So that's something that you might want to consider acting on at some time in the future. Also, the city staff will be coming back next month with recommended ordinances to have flat fees for plumbing permits, including separate fees for residential, commercial, and industrial. At the present time, the plumbing permit fees are based on the number of fixtures, and the flat fees will make it easier to pay for a plumbing permit at the same time a building permit is paid for. And as you know, we've been trying to work towards paying as much as possible, making one check payment to the city at the time of the building permit to cover all the things that are due at that time. And this will facilitate that. So we'll prepare a couple of ordinances next month for your consideration on that. And lastly, I'll ask the chief to talk about Bransford Pride after-school program. They visited the governor's mansion today.
They're on TV. They're on the news.
Yes, I've been on all the major news channels, that sort of thing.
Channel 5 show.
We were fortunate that we received an invitation, or the Bransford after-school program received an invitation from the governor's wife to come over. I figured this would be one of maybe another, 20 or 30 groups of kids, and it turned out it was strictly for our kids. It was strictly for Bransford. We got there today, walked up the drive. The governor's wife met us at the door with a couple of her friends. All the kids came inside. They sat down and talked with them. The First Lady and a couple of friends read from the Wind in the Willows. They then took the kids from there. We had a good time. They took the kids from there on a tour of the house. So they got to see the various paintings and drawings in the Elvis room and all the exciting things like that. Took the kids out to the garden, and they have raised beds out there. UT Extension people were out there, as a matter of fact, and they had spades and things. They showed the kids how to plant various vegetables and things, and the kids actually planted in the raised gardens. They had big signs up there that said these are being planted by the Bransford Pride after-school program from Springfield. And those are going to stay there until they grow and they ripen and they produce and all the things that go with it. Once we finished up with that, we went inside and they took us into the kitchen where the chef had plates set aside with tortillas and then various garden vegetables, and talked about the vegetables and then taught the kids how to make veggie wraps and things like that from the types of things they had just planted. So when they finished up with that, they had goodie bags and things like that and said their goodbyes, but they spent a couple of hours with us. It was really an exciting afternoon. It was a fun time for the kids, a learning experience for the kids. Robert was over there. He was one of the volunteers that went with us, along with a number of other teachers and volunteers in the community. And as I said, all the news stations from around here covered it, so you'll probably see that on the news. But it was very special that this was the lone program that was targeted for this, that was invited to come and participate in this project. And we were treated very graciously by the governor's wife and the staff and all those folks. We just wanted to tell you about it because it was kind of a neat piece of the program. We continue to have over 40 kids a week. In the summertime, that's going to be more than 60. We're also looking at expanding some programs over there. I could give you the stories of the advances and the improvements that these kids are making in terms of attendance, in terms of staying out of trouble in school, and certainly in terms of their academic progress that they're making. But we truly are making a difference in that program, and I just wanted to let you know about that this evening.
Thank you, Chief, and we appreciate the way you are working in that community particularly. And in that same vein, the City Board of Mayor and Aldermen has approved for the last couple of years a program with the YMCA which provides for after-school tutoring for our Springfield Middle School students. And in recognition of that, I forget exactly how much we've spent on that. Was it $20,000?
Over $30,000.
$30,000. Okay. And in return for that, the Hope for Life Award was awarded to the city in recognition of the outstanding service and contribution to the YMCA. And your support has positively impacted the lives of many in this area. And that goes hand in hand with the kind of thing that you're doing in that area as well.
Thank you.
So thank you very much. I want to add in that connection, then we're going to have one thing that the county has asked for. We're going to have to do this under a parade permit for an event on the courthouse square. And so we're going to, let's go on and we'll add, I guess we need a motion to add it to the agenda.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion of adding it to the agenda? Please call the roll on that then, Connie.
Snyder.
Aye.
Carneal.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Ellis.
Aye.
Mason. Pass 7-0.
All right, now it's added to the agenda. Paul, tell them what this is. This is something pertaining to autism, I believe.
Yeah, it's lighting up blue for autism. It's going to be Tuesday, April 1st from 6:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. And they want to close the street between 5th and 6th Avenue near the Chamber in the 626 building.
Okay. Any questions about that? Okay, if you favored this, first of all, let's get a motion to it, actually.
It's already
All right, but did you move to act on it, though?
moved. Motion
Okay.
moved.
And a second?
Second.
All right, now call the roll, please.
Head.
Yes.
Carneal.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Mason.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Ellis.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Pass 7-0.
All right. I wanted to mention, Paul, I'm going to do this and then we'll get to your report. On this past weekend, Springfield High won a very distinct honor, which is going to be a very good thing for the school and for our community as a whole. Many of you are aware of the previous success by our high school mock trial team. There are 10 or 11 students that are in that. Yes, I have a granddaughter in it, so I've been involved in it. It spent about 10 hours Friday and Saturday at the Metro Courthouse watching this take place. The long and the short is they competed against the 15 other best schools in the state. These included at least one private school out of Memphis. It included MBA. It included Harpeth Hall. There were only 3 public high schools in Middle Tennessee that were in these finals, Springfield being one of them, Franklin High being another one, and Smith County being the other. The long and the short is, on Saturday night, we were chosen as the #1 team in the state, beating out Memphis White Station. So let's clap for them. This means that we will be going to represent the state in the national competition, which is going to be held in Madison, Wisconsin. So if any of you want to go to Madison, Wisconsin, you can. I don't think it is in May, Jerry. That's the good thing. I don't think anybody can call that one a junket, but we're tremendously proud. Leslie Deem, D-I-E-H-M, has been the teacher for that group ever since she came on board out there, 1995, I believe, and she has proven herself over and over. I noticed the White Station group. I talked to the coach from down there, and he was talking. The different judges judge each session, and the final was judged by the Chief Justice of the State Supreme Court. When it was over, I was shaking hands with this guy from White Station, and he told the judge, "Well, you were our judge when we won it," referring to White Station. So they're good and have a long tradition in that area as well. But we won it. It's a tremendous compliment to Springfield High School and to this community, and I couldn't let that go unsaid. I want to add just a couple of things. I know we've got a group of people in our audience tonight who are all people that most of you know, who are business people in this community, and they're interested in this community moving forward. And I hope they understand, and we welcome them to any and every meeting that we have, because we want you to see the different things that we deal with, and come back when we have to raise these water rates and sewer rates a little bit more too, to let the public know that you were behind this as well as us. So that'll help. One thing I want to mention about the schools, and I have a handout from the school system now, but I went back and reviewed the test scores that were listed in the Tennessean for Robertson County back in November. Where we're making, if you look at them for the county, and I'm just talking about TCAP, which is grades 3 through 8, math, reading, science, and social studies, rated A to F. If you look, they measure them 2 ways. One set of grades is for value added. That's from where the teacher got them at whatever level they were and moved them forward. We're showing up well in the city schools with that measurement. They're starting lower, but they're being brought up a long way. But the telling thing is the achievement score. Gwen Martin knows what I'm talking about there. Look at her. This means, as a former teacher, I looked at Cheatham Park, West Side, Kreisel, our 3 elementary schools that are measured in this, and then Springfield Middle. And I looked at every other school in the county. Still, our scores under the achievement portion that were published in the Tennessean were not anything as high as the value added. So on the ultimate achievement thing, Cheatham Park was, let me see if I can go. Chrysler was our strongest with 3 Bs and a C, I believe is what the rating was. I don't remember in which subjects, but you've heard me say what subjects are tested. West Side would have been our second best at, I believe, 2 Bs and 2 Cs, I believe. No, and wasn't that, anyway, they had made progress. Cheatham Park was less so. Then Springfield Middle School had some improvement, but still 3 scores that were very low in achievement. This is when we've talked about this in the past, we started this saying there was one thing first and foremost. We want to celebrate all the success that occurs in the school system. And we want to stress that. But where it's not successful, we want to work on it. We have still lost so many middle-class families from our elementary schools. I read to a class last Friday at West Side. Mayor Bradley read to one as well. It is very obvious that these teachers are teaching largely economically deprived children in these schools. This has significantly changed from 1970, when I was the principal at Cheatham Park, or 15 years later, when my youngest son was at Cheatham Park. I saw some information the other day that showed exactly what I'm talking about. If we're going to say we believe in these schools, we've got to support them with our children going to them. Mine have all gone there, and my grandchildren use them. I think we need to remember that nobody works any harder in this school system than the teachers and the principals of the Springfield schools. And as I've used the example in years past, I remember a teacher who taught for me at Cheatham Park, and I was there 7 years. The first year we integrated, and then 6 years after that. And this teacher later moved to White House, and I asked her later, "You see any difference?" She said, "The difference is night and day. The children are just starting at a much higher level in most of the area schools." And that's where we've lost it, and we've got to correct that course. Now, this school system is moving forward now, and I believe that with all that's in me. The director is strong. The assistant director is a highly respected educator from Sumner County, and we're making progress. But don't think we're there yet. And the difference today versus 1970, 1980, 1990 is everybody knows what every school does performance-wise. All they got to do is look at their laptop. Before, maybe they didn't know all of it, or maybe it was a different feeling. But we haven't lost these predominantly to private schools. They're still living in the city, but they're going to school outside the city. In case after case after case. And that has to be brought out. And we want it to get better, because we'll never be what we ought to be if our school system isn't respected, and that there are schools that have to be avoided. And that should not be the case. And that's the end of my sermon, but I appreciate you listening, because I truly believe that as much as I believe anything. And if we get that straight, along with getting the sewer straight, we're going to move a whole lot of things forward. We could have done a better job a little earlier on with this, but I can tell you that this board never did turn anything down in that respect. But I was mayor first in 1983 for 10 years, and then out of it for 11. The new sewer plant was put into effect in 83 or 84. I remember that. So you see how much we have grown. And is our growth slow now? Yes, it is. And we want to do something about it. And please keep that in mind and understand that where we are weak, we want you to let us know, because we want to do something about it. But we're determined to improve this community. And we want you to have property to sell, and we want you to have building materials to sell, and we want the community to move forward, period. And we have tried to be fair with the golfers, but we sure spent a whole lot of time on that and still didn't get a thank you, I don't think, afterwards. But nevertheless, we're trying. Paul?
I'm done, Mayor.
That is? Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor.
Anybody else before we adjourn?
Yes, on my trip to Washington, one of the major things, as a member of the Community Economic Development Group, which I was retained again, one of the imperatives of growing your community was the education. That's one of the stresses, and water was second. And I have to echo the point, because it has bothered me with failing schools, as people have known over the last 6 or 7 years. But I am pleased as we got this update.
It's better.
And then my little conversation with the superintendent, I'm really, I feel that he's really supportive and he's on track.
And I hope the business community will stand with us as we move forward in this building phase of the new school, and stay with the commission as they get that bond issue to approve for the financing of this elementary school, which is a 120,000 square foot building built for 800, I think, students, with a core capacity for 1,000, the core being your cafeteria and gymnasium, library, and that type of thing. That's a tremendous need. The director told me there are 50-something portables in this system now. That's terrible. We try to secure school buildings by having you go through a locked door into a lobby before you move into the building. How do you do that if you've got 14 portables on the property like Chrysler does, or the 8 or 10 at Cheatham Park and West Side and so forth? That's what we're talking about.
And one other,
yes.
I have a granddaughter at West Side, and she's very nervous about those portables. And I'll echo this again. I've said it to 2 or 3 business leaders, but if you really want your business to grow, get behind education. And I got to thank you, sir. I'm looking at you right now, Mr. Owner of Lee's. I thank you, Jerry. I thank you, Jerry, for that ad has been running for 5 months now, getting in behind the education. The rest of you guys join him, and we'll have a great community.
Yes, sir.
We deferred on an action that was put to us about buying some property for the industrial park. I've told y'all at various meetings in the past, I'm going to tell Paul when he looks into this, it's going to be hard for me to support anything that's not going to be next to a railroad track. In my travels, the higher paying, bigger jobs, and I'm looking toward the other side of the airport, where our water comes from, where our sewer is on that side of town. If it's not going to be on that side of town, and we're not going to be able to access a railroad for an industrial park, where that may be able to connect to Maxey Road on that side of the tracks, I'm going to be hard to support it. I'm going to let you know when you start looking at somebody else in the county about negotiating.
That's a good point.
All right. We stand adjourned.
Best thing you said all night, Mr. Sneed.